the San Francisco 49ers at Seattle. They got the Seahawks Thursday night football, and this is the game plan right here on the Wayne Breezy Show. What's going on, 49er faithful? Thanks for being in the building. Wayne Breezy Show back in full effect. This is the game plan. John Chapman couldn't be here on today. He will be traveling out there. So if you're going to be out in Seattle, make sure you hit up the Rush road trip so you can go ahead and partake in all the festivities and events. Thank you so much for being here on this morning. All right, on this morning, make sure you guys like. Don't forget to comment. If you're new to the channel, feel free to click on that subscribe button right here on the YouTube channel. Is unfortunately not monetized, so the super chat features and the membership features are off as of right now. But if you do want to support, you can go ahead and use the Cash App $TWBEN and the Venmo and PayPal at TWBEN. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast for those that like to listen to it on their phones and their cars. All right, you can go to Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Spotify podcast has a cool format to where I can interact and do polls and all that type of stuff. So make sure you check it out if you're a Spotify podcaster or an Apple podcaster or wherever you guys listen to your favorite 49ers shows. Also, you can follow on X, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, right there at the Wayne Breezy. So go ahead and check that out as well. And for the exclusive content, you want the film breakdown, go to the Patreon. We got exclusive shows there as well as www.patreon.com/the Wayne Breezy. What's going on, faithful? How you guys feeling on this morning, man? I need to. We got to do our Wednesday check. We got Thursday night football coming up. Nick Knight starts the show off with a let's go. He's excited. He's ready because football is back. 49ers throwback. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to smash that like button. Appreciate that. I see Don't Bother Me in the building as well. What's going on, family? Manly's in the building. Happy hump day, Wayne and Niners faithful. 49ers Chanel is in the building. What up, faithful? I love it, man. Alejandro, what's good? Peachy's in the building. Salute, Breezy, and the faithful chit chat. Like, support the show, all that good stuff. Matthew, good freaking morning. You know what? I think we're finally getting over the loss to the Arizona Cardinals because we know that all we got to do is beat the Seahawks and literally we'll be in first place. Like that, it's crazy, right? It's so crazy how the NFC West and the NFC is shaping out. Like it's crazy, right? Lake City Fresh, my guy. What's good, family? Pocket the Cheesecakes in the building. Kevin Parker, what's going on? Agency 323. Hopefully, but truly, if they lose Thursday night, I knew Agency was going to hit me with the reality comment. I was waiting for it, you know. Not sure where my head goes as a fan. I understand. And the good thing is I'll be here to listen. But you got to give me a second to overreact first, so I can get out my emotions, so I can become you know what my overreaction shows are for? So that I can be emotionally competent to receive how you feel. You know what I'm saying? That's me, you know, so that's how I'm looking at it. And we're going to do a Q&A question after I finish the game plan. We're going to do a little Q&A question. So if you guys got questions, make sure you put them in. Stick around because I'll get to them at the end of the show. So as I see them come in, I'm going to star them and I'll get to them at the end of the show. Red Jet Shell is in the building. Red and Gold Empire is in the building saying got to get that dub or whatnot. Listen, let's get through some 49ers news and updates, man. That's what it's all about because stuff is always going down with our San Francisco 49ers. So we'll start with some of the good news. The 49ers made a roster move because they signed veteran kicker Matthew Wright. They signed veteran kicker Matthew Wright. Now, who the hell is Matthew Wright? Now, I believe Matthew Wright spent some time on the 49ers practice squad at one point. Now, the last team he played for was the Carolina Panthers. All right. The last team he played for was the Carolina Panthers. Now, he's been in the league since 2020. All right. And he's an 85% field goal kicker. All right. 85% field goal kicker overall. It's not bad. 85.1. I'll take it. You know, I'll take it. Give it to me, baby. because you're going to need him. You're going to need a kicker because we're going to talk about the injury to Jake Moody in a few. But at least the Niners did get a kicker in there to kick and get ready for a Thursday night battle against Seattle. It's going to be crazy now that I think about it. But Niners got a new kicker, and we just going to have to sit back and accept it or whatnot. That's who it is. Let's talk about the injury report because this is where Kyle Shanahan spoke on yesterday, and he talked about the injury. We finally got an update on Talanoa Hufanga. Talanoa Hufanga tore some ligaments in his wrist in the game. Okay, ligaments in the wrist in the game against Arizona. So right now, it's kind of like it's about a month he's going to be out of football. They have not decided if they're going to put him on the IR. The 49ers are starting to fill up those IR spots. They do have players they can bring back off the IR, like Ricky Pearsall. Ambry Thomas, I believe, is on the IR. We know that Elijah Mitchell is done for the season. Drake Jackson's done for the season. So those were season-ending IRs. I feel like there's a couple of other players that are currently on the IR right now that I just kind of like forgot about. I'm not obviously Christian McCaffrey's up there. And so the 49ers got to be mindful because they can only bring players back, I believe, like twice. And then they can only bring back like a total of a certain amount of players. So it's going to get weird. So the question is, will he go to the IR? As of right now, it's up in the air. All right. Now, Jake Moody has a high ankle sprain. All right. Jake Moody has a high ankle sprain. So Jake Moody is going to be out depending on how severe the ankle sprain is and how quick he's able to recover. And we talk about a kicker needing his ankles. I just don't know. So I think the Jake Moody situation will be how well Matthew Wright kicks in the Seattle Seahawks game. I wouldn't be surprised. Now, this game is going to be a little bit different. Like when you get down to the red zone, I mean, it's touchdowns and touchdowns, but you get there, you're going to have to go out there with your kicker. You get to a certain spot, you got to take the points. You're on the road. So it's a little different game plan, a little different attack on how you stack your points. But, Matthew Wright's going to have the spotlight on him, and he's going to have to make sure he's knocking whatever opportunities he gets. He's going to have to make sure he's knocking those opportunities down for points for the San Francisco 49ers. So if he kicks well, I think you may see Jake Moody go onto the IR. And now that's an automatic 4 weeks that they'll be without a kicker. For 4 weeks, they'll be without their starting kicker, and they'll continue to roll with Matthew Wright. So the good news is they get a vet in here. The bad news is Jake Moody's going to be out for a while. And Feliciano's also on the IR. So there's a bunch of players that we still have to, figure out. Kalia Davis is no longer on the IR. He's actually on the active roster. He played last week. And he didn't get injured, so that's good, right? He didn't get injured. Now, as far as the practice report yesterday, the practice report from yesterday, now you got to remember the 49ers aren't practicing, right? They're just doing some walkthroughs because they have to travel out to Seattle, which they're probably doing today, and or they're already out there. So they're just walking through, not full practice or anything like that. No hitting, no nothing. But here's the practice report. You got Jordan Elliott, he had a knee injury. He did not practice. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles did not practice. They have a calf injury. I believe he's already been ruled out of the game. I want to circle the Jordan Elliott. I want to talk about that one. Talanoa Hufanga has the wrist injury. Jake Moody, we just talked about his injury. Then you got your guys that are limited. Jair Brown with the ankle injury. Chris Conley with the oblique injury. So these are your day-to-day guys. Jacob Cowing, shoulder injury. Fred Warner, George Kittle, still the ribs or whatever or whatnot. So the good news is they're day to day and they're still, out there. Travarius Ward has the knee injury as well. And the good news is that they're limited, right? The question is, will they be questionable today? And so like if they become questionable today, now you're going to have to start thinking, all right, man, if Jair Brown can't go because he was limited, if that's weird, right? If Travarius Ward can't go because he's limited, that's weird. We're already down safeties. That means the 49ers may be looking at a total different look defense. I'm going to go, let's just have some fun with it. Let's go with the limited guys, right? If Jair Brown doesn't play, let's say he has an ankle injury, he can't go. Not saying he won't, but let's just say he can't go. I think George Kittle is going to be fine. Fred Warner is going to be fine. They played last week. But let's just say that those two can't go. So now you're looking at your starting safeties, George Odom, and Malik Mustafa will probably call up a safety. Tracy Walker, I believe he's still with the team. I think he's on the practice squad. It's gonna be interesting to see how this actually pans out. Now I'm expecting Jair Brown to play though. Like he came back in the game, he finished the game. I'm expecting him to play. So it is what it is. Any guy that's limited, I'm kind of expecting to play. Charvarius Ward, though, if his knee is really bothering him, I'm kind of worried about him and his defense. He hasn't been really good this year defensively. I'm not sure if it's because he had the off-season surgery. He had the issue, and he's still just trying to get back into football shape or whatnot. But we'll see what happens, man. I don't know if the Niners will start another rookie. Will Renardo Green get a shot? Will Isaac Yadam be the outside guy with Diamador Lenore? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens or whatnot. But that was the practice report. I'll keep you updated on today once they give you the newest version of what's going down, and we'll have some fun with that, and we'll kind of start to put some things together. So hopefully later on some of the later shows, we'll be able to get through some of that. All right. We'll be able to get through some of that. Look, man, the Niners are in a peculiar spot, right? When you look at the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, obviously we looked at our record. Here's the last 10 regular season games. And you can see that the Niners, last regular season games, these are regular season, we're not talking playoffs. The Niners kind of get it in, that the Niners are winning. And Brock Purdy, I feel like Brock Purdy plays very well against the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know, especially there. I feel like Brock Purdy plays really well there. There's a little difference in the Seattle Seahawks team, though. I feel like they have a different philosophy, a different mindset with their coach, Mike McDonald, who I'm super familiar with because he's a Michigan guy, right? Like, so I like, whatever. But anyway, we do know Mike McDonald from being a defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens, and they talked to Kyle Shanahan about that. He's very aggressive. He knows how to use his players. It could be a possibility that the Seattle Seahawks are without some of their star players. I do know that Julian Love, their starting safety, was limited in practice on yesterday. They also have some players, I believe, that are going to be out in this game as of yesterday. So they could be down some of their star defensive players. Boye Mafe is back, but these were the players that were limited. Linebacker Derek Hall, defensive tackle Byron Murphy, the second hamstring injury. He's not even expected to play. I believe they placed their linebacker Nwosu with the thigh injury on the IR, so he's out. Cornerback Reek Woolen got injured in the game. He has an ankle injury, so he didn't practice. It's going to be interesting, right? Limited was Julian Love with a hamstring injury, so we'll see how that fares out. But then they had a bunch of guys back: tight end Farrell Brown, linebacker Boye Mafe, safety Rayshawn Jenkins is back, tight end Noah Fant is back, DK Metcalf is back with a hand injury. Speaking of hand injury, pay attention to the DK Metcalf because in back-to-back games he has fumbled the ball. In back-to-back games he has fumbled the ball. I don't know if it's because of that hand injury, but that's something to pay attention to. San Francisco 49ers defense. He has a hand injury, so hit him on the hand. All right. Tight end Brady Russell, wide receiver Laviska Chenault Jr. is back. Nose tackle Cameron Young, Jonathan Hankins, their other nose tackle, and then Leonard Williams, their defensive end, is back. He's a force out there too. We all know about Leonard Williams. So they got their defense back intact pretty much. Limited was Julian Love. To me, that's probably one of their best defensive players, but they should be good to go. They are at home. They have the home field, quote unquote, advantage. But again, like the Niners have their back. You know what? I was just about to say this, Big Dez, back against the wall. Let's get it done. And, when when I think about the San Francisco 49ers, and if you ask me, like, Breezy, what is wrong with the 49ers? And I can literally sum it up and say they just they have no heart. Like the heart, like their heart. And I'm not talking about the actual organ heart. I'm talking about like physically, like they're not playing like dogs, right? Like their dog has ran out. And I don't get it because they only draft dogs. So I don't care if you draft a rookie dog or whatever dog. I feel like the 49ers are playing with a bunch of old Dante Pettis, right? I need the dogs to come back out. And I don't know, like if they're dogs, they're alpha dogs, they're I don't know what's going on, but you could tell that the synergy of the room is off. Just listening to the players at the pressers, you can tell they're starting to get a little bit chompy and snappy, and they don't really want to talk. They don't really want to be asked questions. They're obligated. They have to do it contractually. You could tell, like even with Fred Warner. And so here's my thing, right? My issue is all they need to do. I need all of the 35 captains that they voted for this year get together. Now, I it is what it is. I need the captains to come together, and the best time, I promise you, like the best time to do this is on the road. Why? Because you got to go on the road together, right? You got to talk, you got to communicate, and the communication needs to get back intact. I always say, like, no matter what the relationship is, no matter what it is, you need that one thing to always be like full throttle on 100. It comes down to communication. The other stuff you can build, the commitment, the players are committed. I don't think that's the issue. I think there's a lack of communication or there's a slight disconnection. And I'm not sure what that is. And the scapegoat, here's my issue. The scapegoat is that we blame the coaches, which is fine. I don't want to get into an argument about this. You want to blame the coaches, blame the coaches. But when are you going to hold a grown ass man accountable? And listen, I could coach you till you blue in the face, but you still got to go out, perform, and execute. You still got to go out and communicate. And I think the Niners, as players, the men, the captains, you're voted a captain for a reason. I feel like a captain should be a direct descendant from the coaches. Now, the coaches don't pick the captains, the players do. And the players pick captains because they trust these guys out there. They like to listen to them. They can connect to them. And if you're a captain, you're a captain. I don't think there's levels of captainship. There might be experience when it comes to captains, but where are my captains at? That's my question. Like, where are my captains? Where's Kyle Juszczyk? It's the first time you're a captain, right, Kyle? Where you at? You coming out saying that stuff is weird. Well, find a way, find a solution to get your guys off of that weird shit. You're a captain. Brock Purdy, you're a captain. You might be young, you might be new to the game. You're the quarterback, you're the leader of this team. You're wearing the captain's patch. Brock, you got to step up into your captain's role. Trent Williams, you're a captain. I don't know where my captains are. Debo, you're a captain. Fred Warner, you're a captain. And then listen, you can't make people listen to you, but you got to figure it out. Nick Bosa, I get it. Like, these guys are trying to figure out how to be their best versions of themselves on the football field each and every week. And I get it. And I understand that. But when you take on the captain role, you take on an extra layer of stuff. Like, that's what being captain is all about. You take on certain burdens and alleviate the pressures from some of these young guys so that they don't have to deal with certain things mentally. George Kittle. So listening to George Kittle, listening to some of these players talk, like, they're trying to tell us what's going on, but they can't really tell us what's going on. And I really think I think the captains need to have a meeting, and they just need to say, hey man, let's get our team in order. you know. And I'm hoping that they did that because God forbid if they happen to lose this game, like there's going to be a lot of blame game stuff going around. And I'm talking about it, and I'm here for it. And I think everybody's going to be like, all right, Kyle, it's time. Hot seat, we got to go. You can't lose 3 in your division and remain dominant, right? And so like, you know, if that happens, that's when you really want to start get like directing it more toward the coaching, because why aren't your players like corresponding with what you're asking them to do out there on the football field? So it could get nasty. So that's why this is a back against the wall must win game, all that type of good stuff. And I'm not saying that they lost the dog. I know, but I don't know where the dog is. Maybe the dog's in the doghouse. Maybe there's a possibility that the dog's in the doghouse. You know what I'm saying? And there's a possibility that that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe they're all in the doghouse just chilling. I can't figure it out. But all I know is that it's weird. Peachy says, I didn't like what Warner said about not talking to players. He's a damn captain. He has to get his team together. Right. And so that's the thing, right? Before you get that's my point. Like before you get your team together, the captains need to be on the same page. There should be only one. It's the head coach direction, and then it's the head coach's vision, excuse me, and then it's the captain's direction to portray the message to the players so that they're all on the same page. So before a captain does this and does that, right? I need the captains to come together so that they're on the same page. So if Fred has to be that guy to get his captains on the same page, then whatever it takes, because, like Big Dad said, your backs are against the wall. And, you lose this game, you're 0-3, which means you can only have 3 more opportunities to tie it up in your division, which means you're technically not going to probably secure that playoff spot. Remember, you win the division, you secure a spot. I don't care if you wild card or not. It's an automatic in. And so, like, yeah, we're dealing with injuries just like every other team. Yeah, we're having these issues just like every other team, adversity, every other team, blah, 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 blah. Man, say that drama for your mama. It's the NFL. You're going to deal with it every year. It's going to be different, but every year is going to be something. And so, like, that's the Niners got to figure it out. Now, I do need the coaches at some point, they got to do some stuff too. They got to do some soul searching. They got to do some things, let me ask you this question. Kyle Shanahan, we all know that Robert Saleh was fired from the New York Jets, and I think everybody in the new and 49er world want Robert Saleh back, and it's probably not going to happen because we want it. Usually when we want stuff, it doesn't happen. So maybe we shouldn't want it. Do a little reverse psychology on it, right? But let me ask you this. They asked about Nick Sorsen in a presser on yesterday. And notice I'm not playing presser clips anymore. It's waste of time. We can talk about it, though. Remember Kyle Shanahan and what he said about Nick Sorsen. He said that he thinks he's doing a great job, blah, 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 which is fine. Like, I'm not asking him to throw anybody under the bus. But I wonder, like, what great job is Nick Sorsen doing if he's not able to have his guys ready for certain scenarios? See, to me, that's coaching. So coaches have to have their players prepared for every scenario. Every scenario, every possible scenario. That's what the coaches are for. All right, they might do a fake this, they might reverse this, they might zone read this, they might do this. So just be prepared. Now, Nick Sorsen talked about getting burnt on that play without throwing any of his players under the bus. I really respect Nick Sorsen, right? I do. I've watched the film. I finally watched the film. It took me, oh man, I'm tired. But I finally got through the film and I said, oh man, on that play, damn, Nick Bosa, if he was told to crash in, fine. He did what he was asked to do. But man, It was some heavy biting on that play action. That first play effed up the 49ers defense so bad. The first play, if you don't remember, was a play action pass to the tight end. And you don't be mad when I say this, because I know y'all hate Devondre Campbell. He's trash. I get it. He's not great. He might not be a good fit for this system. That is fair assessment. But man, there's some things out there that I saw that I was like, wait a minute, man, we can't blame Campbell on this play if Deommodore Lenoir messed up. When on that first play of the game, Campbell was supposed to cover the tight end, and he was. But then here comes Deommodore Lenoir, who wasn't playing the right depth, back and runs right into Campbell, which knocks Campbell off of his coverage route. And now you got Trey McBride wide open for a 22-yard. You got to go to the Patreon, subscribe to the Patreon, and it's there. I promise you. And I was just like, oh, man, I did not see this in real time. I just thought Campbell got burnt. And he did, technically. But technically, he was knocked off his own route by his own guy. Communication. You get what I'm saying? Communication. So I can't blame Nick Sorensen for that if the players didn't execute properly. So, like, does Nick Sorensen get blamed? Yes. The next play, though, I got it. That next play was on Nick Sorensen. Now, I'm trying to figure out, like, why are you playing too high? Why are you playing single high safety with a quarterback that could potentially run past everybody? So if you're playing everybody up and you only got one guy, here's Hufanga was the guy. Hufanga bit on the run so hard. It was just like, it was late. It was a late bite on the run because Nick Bosa had already tackled James Conner, and then Hufanga went forward instead of going back. It was like, are you guys seeing it? And so, like, I just think the players are not executing properly. I just don't think that they're understanding certain concepts, or I don't think they're understanding their assignments. That's the thing. And that is coaching. That's coaching. You get what I'm saying? Because you have to look at a coach as a teacher. I know they're not, but when they're on the football field, you don't call coaches teachers, but that's what they're doing. The coaches are the teachers on the football field. And so the teacher's responsibility is to make sure that the students, which are the players, understand what the fuck is going on. And I think that is why everybody is frustrated, because when we see the mental mistakes on the football field, we're just like, what the freak? And so I'm looking at it as, damn, the player messed up. And people are like, well, the coaches messed up. And I'm like, okay, I think we're both right. Because maybe the coaches just aren't explaining football properly to some of the players. You got to remember, everybody is a different type of learner. I say it every single time, but maybe because that was the profession that I was working in for over 20 years. And I realized I can't teach the same methods to every student the same way. I can teach my method generally, and then there's going to be students that's going to need extra time, extra help, extra work after school. You get what I'm saying? That's coaching. That's teaching. That's coaching. That's how it has to be. Because what I'm looking at on the football field right now, early, and I'm not saying it won't get better. I'm just saying right now, what I'm seeing is like players not knowing what the fuck is going on, not knowing where to be, not knowing where to line up. And it's the players that do know what they're doing. Now they're overcompensating because they see somebody is about to make a mistake. So then they try to help, and then they leave their lane. And that is good old 49er football for you, though, right? Like, that is what we've been seeing for the past several years. And you can chalk it up to us having inexperienced players, new players, like free agents, guys we had to bring in, and injuries. Like, all of that, all of this goes into that. All of it goes into that. All right, so look, the Niners got a lot of stuff they need to fix offensively and defensively. They got a crazy matchup against a division rival. Let's get into some of this game plan, because I want to get some questions from you guys out there. And again, I do apologize for John not being here on today. He had to travel to set up. But let's look and see where we ranked right now. 49ers offense right now is, as far as yards per game, they're putting up yards. They have zero problems moving the ball. Zero issues with the 49ers moving the ball. They're ranked second. They're averaging 407.4 yards per game. They're ranked fourth in passing. They're really moving the ball in the air, something that we're not really used to seeing. But I can explain that too, because that's different. Rushing, they're ranked seventh. They're averaging 144 yards per game. 49ers should be ranked first in rushing, period. And we can talk about that. And then points per game, they're at 10th. They're not quite. They're 4.8 points from that 30 range, but they're not putting up a lot of points. And the games that they're losing, they win when they score 30. How about that? They win when they score 30. So the Niners offense is kind of, without context, it's kind of good. It's kind of good numbers wise, statistically wise. You would be like, this is a pretty damn good offense. Now there's context to it. And it's like, yeah, but they don't look as good as those numbers. Why? Because of the way that we do things, right? So there's always a way. And so when I look at the Niners, I'm like, damn, we should be number one in rushing. I wasn't expecting us to be high in passing, but we should be number one in rushing. There should be not a team out there that rushes more yards than the 49ers. That's without Christian McCaffrey. After Jordan Mason's first game and what 49er fans have been seeing and him being able to average blah, 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 whatever, there's no reason why the 49ers and Jordan Mason isn't the leading rusher in the NFL, unless if there's a note going around and an email saying we don't want Jordan Mason to lead the NFL in rushing. That's the only thing I could think. It's got to be some type of conspiracy because none of it makes sense. This dude, doesn't matter if he's getting stopped for negative yards, he's going to always have an explosive run. And I'm not talking about your regular 10-yard run. I'm talking about a 20-plus yard run, right? So I don't get the 14 carries last week. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense why we're just not finding ways to run the ball more, especially in like. And I get that we're not doing it in the red zone. I understand that. I watched the film and I get it, and I get it. But my point is, why not rush more? Period. More volume of it. Give him 25 attempts. See what happens from that. Because now you're going to, when you give Mason 25, and let's say Mason in 25, he's still averaging 6 yards, 5 yards per carry. He has over 100 yards with 25 attempts. You're still going to get your rushes from Debo if you rush him. You're still going to mix it up a little bit with the rookie Isaac Garendo, whoever you have spelling him. And you're going to get some scramble plays from Brock Purdy. So at the end of the day, you're pushing the numbers up. And it's just like, man, like for some reason, that ain't clicking with the Niners. That's not clicking. They're seventh. And I'm okay with seventh. You know what I'm saying? They're seventh, but I realize it's not just 8 in the box. Listen, I counted 6. I counted 5. I at first I was like, oh shoot, the Snoopy cousin. The first teams we played, they were literally playing 8 in the box, and I was like, damn, they were. I'm not gonna lie, especially against the 3-4 defenses. We have been struggling against 3-4 defenses. Like, I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, that's the Niners offensive front is struggling against the 3-4 defensive front. Call it what you want. You got quicker linebackers, right? Opposed to bigger guys up front. So yeah, they've been struggling. So that's that. But 25 attempts is minimal for a running back. I don't give a fuck what you got. You're running. If you're the number one running back, it's got to be the number's got to be 25. Unless you're up by 60, you know what I mean? If you're not up by 60, and if the game is relatively close, you should still be running the ball. Now, time plays that factor. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Agency says, did I see Johnny Dale's breakdown? He showed 3 plays where Mason hit the wrong hole. Yes. Debo not running routes fully, if not primary target. Yeah, but like I said, the energy is off. I'm not giving no excuses with anything. And a lot of people were, talking about the rookie, and I think this is the issue with Kyle Shanahan. And so, like, when you talk about Christian McCaffrey, it's just like, yo, you trust him. What do you think Kyle Shanahan trusts so much about Christian McCaffrey? Can't say holding on to the ball because he fumbled the ball 3 times last year, so that ain't it. Kyle don't give a fuck about fumbles. Kyle don't care about fumbling the ball. Let me take that back. Kyle cares about turning over the ball, but he's, for some reason, this Kyle Shanahan's been overlooking that. We've seen a Kyle Shanahan that if you turn over the ball, you fumble it, your ass is out of the game. He doesn't do that anymore. But I feel like Kyle is very, well, what's the word? He ain't trying to trust everybody. It's hard for him to trust. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a word for that. But it's hard for him to trust. And he's trying to trust Jordan Mason, but when Jordan Mason is making some of these mistakes, and I saw that when I did my film, I was like, yo, Mason's got to hit this. Mason's got to do this. Like, even on the fumble, I thought Mason should have cut back in. You had your block. You had Dominic Pony sealing out. Trent Williams literally would have walked you into the end zone. There was no, Trent didn't have to block anybody. But because he cut back to the outside, because he tried to cut back and made it an outside zone run instead of cutting inside where there was a crevice, it was a big hole. He could have rushed for he could have had an 8-yard rush touchdown. If you got Trent in front of you, you could run on the back of Trent, literally, don't hurt him, and probably walk on over him into the end zone. Like, Trent was right there. It was like he was the lead blocker, and Trent was just like, oh, shoot, I don't got nobody to block, so I'm going to turn around and try to block this guy. I'm going to try. It'd be little stuff like that. The thing that Kyle misses is the trust that he has with Christian McCaffrey, because Christian McCaffrey trusts his rushing lanes. Christian McCaffrey trusts that the blocks are going to be there. The younger backs, the newer backs, don't trust that. And because they're not trusting the hole to open up or the block to be there and stuff to develop, they hit the wrong hole. They hit the wrong lane. And that is the issue with the 49ers run game. That's the issue. So when you talk about, Christian McCaffrey, like you telling me we can only score with Christian McCaffrey? Yes, I'm telling you that. Why? Because of Christian's ability and understanding of football, that my blockers and my lanes are going to open up. And if they don't, I have the vision to cut outside or cut inside in a split decision. And that's the difference. That's the difference. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Kali says, talk about Kittle getting knocked on his ass by Buddha on the Mason fumble. Yo, it was Kittle got hit by two dudes. So it was like, imagine getting hit up top and getting hit like down low, and you get knocked off balance, and he got pancaked. I talked about it. I've never seen Kittle get pancaked. It's not like Buddha straight overpowered Kittle, and I'm not sticking up because I love me some Buddha Baker. That's my guy. But that's what I saw on the film. It was just like, oh damn. I'm like, well, Kittle can't take on two dudes. Pause. It was kind of rough. It was kind of rough. That was rough. That was rough, man. That was rough. That was super rough. I appreciate the comments too, man. I like these type of shows, man. I do. Facts Breezy. That's why Kyle seems it's all. I think we're forgetting that that's what makes Kyle super genius. When he has the specific players that he just trusts, it just opens up the Kyle Shanahan's playbook. Like it opens up it takes away the limitations. And so it's okay to say that the 49ers are limited without Christian McCaffrey. That's fine. But it does not mean that Kyle has to figure it out. He has to figure it out. He has to figure it out. So when I'm looking at the Seattle Seahawks defense, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Their rush defense isn't ranked good. And I mean, like, they're just not. They're 20th in rushing. They're giving up 128 yards. We average 144. It should be a no-brainer. But here's what, and listen, yards per game, they're 11th, 311. They're close to us. Passing yards, close to us. They're 7th, we're 2nd. Rushing, far away from us, right? And points per game, they're giving up at least 22, almost 23 points average. They rank 18th. If I'm a head coach and I see 20th against the run, the slot machine is like ding 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 ding. Like I'm spinning, saying like, yo, let's just run the ball. If they show 8 in the box, then obviously you check out of the play. Okay, you got a can play. If you show up for a run, you see 8 in the box. Brock Purdy's one of the smartest mofo low down showdowns around town. He's gonna check out. He's gonna check out, and I'm with it. So like, Kyle's got to, like, when I'm thinking of this game plan, Kyle's got to he's got to find a way to get his players or set his players up to execute. And the best way from a teacher perspective is to simplify it. I always used to say, man, look, when I was teaching, I would give my students, and I would allow my students to choose. So I'm all about the choice, right? And so I think this is how Kyle does it too, right? I would allow my students to choose which type of assignment they wanted, right? There was like, there was an easy one, which still taught what I was teaching. There was one that was going to be a little bit more challenging. It was going to take a little bit more steps, a little bit more thinking. And there was one that's going to take a bunch of thinking. Like you needed to figure it out. But if you think you can handle it, you try it. I think with the play calls, and I after watching the film in this game and just listening to everybody talk, I was hot. I was like, yo, we're blaming the coach. I can't blame the coach. Players got to execute. I felt like we were both right. At the end of the day, I watched the film and I'm like, oh man, this was really a lot of execution, lack of. One of my keys to victory this week is going to be executing, because the nine and it's just, especially in the red zone, that's a key. And when I say lack of, on all those red zone attempts, we got one touchdown, right? We got one touchdown. You remember that? All right, you remember the touchdown throw? And this is on, if you want to watch it, it's on the Patreon. Remember the touchdown attempt, to George Kittle, the second one, where he threw it to George Kittle and not in the, like the not the corner, but like it was right at the goal line, and Kittle tried to go up and get it, but the ball wasn't high enough for him to go get it at the high point. It was a bunch of lack of execution in the red zone. And it wasn't just on the play call, because even on that play, Jordan Mason was wide open. But Brock didn't see it. He didn't see Mason. And I'm like, but Mason's wide open. But Mason's right there. Like, Mason's wide open. Like, how do you not see Mason wide open? And it was because he saw man coverage, George Kittle one-on-one. And if Brock, listen, this is why I said execution was crazy. If Brock would have just threw the ball in the air, like to where Kittle, remember the touchdown play the prior week where Kittle jumped and mossed everybody? Well, if Brock throws a moss ball, that's a touchdown. Why? Kittle's going up to grab it. That was one. You remember the touchdown throw to George Kittle? Excuse me. You remember the other red zone attempt? This is why I said it's execution, and a lot of it's on Brock Purdy. I know people don't want to hear it, but a lot of it was on Brock. A lot of the lack of execution wasn't because of the players. It was because of the quarterback. Here we go. Remember the play where Brock threw it to Kittle? It was like a tight end screen, right? And it was to the left, and Kittle had to jump up. He had to leave his feet. He caught the ball, but then he was like contorted to a way to where he had to like get his body right, and his momentum took him out of bounds. He was going to get hit on the play. If Brock just throws a better pass and not the Jimmy Garoppolo hospital ball, Kittle catches that in stride, and he's walking into the end zone. So when I say that there were plays that were dialed up for touchdowns, there literally were. It's just the execution was poor on parts. There's 2 sacks on Brock. Like, one of them he could have just ran. There was 20 yards of green pastures or acres where all he had to do was step up in the pocket and just run straight, and it would have been a touchdown. But he was trying to make a play, so he stepped to the side and he wanted to pass the ball. So like it's just little tweaks, y'all. It's little tweaks, man. And so I'm hoping this week they tweaking. I'm hoping this week that the Niners are watching the film saying, oh man, like this should have been a touchdown. Oh, this could have been a touchdown. This could have been a touchdown. This could have been a touchdown. Like, yeah, it could have been. You guys got to just stop tweaking. I'm seeing too many pump fakes, too much hesitation. And I remember we used to beat Trey Lance down because he hesitated a lot. And I'm not comparing the two, but those are the little things that prevent you from just scoring, especially in the red zone. And so Brock has to trust his arm and trust that the players are going to be there. And again, for some strange reason, we're coming back to trust. I don't get it. It's coach trusting. And I think Kyle Shanahan trusts Brock. I do. Those tip pass interceptions, those were both on Brock Purdy. Y'all gonna be mad, but they were. Listen, man, if you can afford the money, go to the Patreon, watch the film, and I'm explaining it there. I promise. This game against Seattle, though, the 49ers can't afford to make some of these same mistakes. They just can't. And the reason why I say that is because they'll find themselves in the same type of situation, and they'll end up probably losing the game. Brock Purdy, what makes Brock Purdy special is efficiency. And so I don't know if you've noticed that, but that has been the change or the shift in the game plan. The efficiency is no longer there. And so, it's there, but we're starting to see like lack of efficiency. Like Brock, what was he? 54% completion percentage. That's not efficient. That's not Brock. Brock's usually in the 60s and 70s. That's Brock. Brock is throwing passes and the efficient passes, the quick throws, the quick reads. What we're getting though is a shift in the game plan. And so I think Kyle Shanahan this week needs to get back to the script. That's what I'm going to hold the coach accountable for. I feel like there's nothing Seattle is going to do other than show blitz, line big motherfuckers up at the line of scrimmage, get into Brock's vision and throwing lanes, try to bat down passes. And that's my concern. My concern is that I just watched 2 tipped interceptions, 2 of them. Just watched 2 of them. And when I go back and I look at last season, I say to myself, oh, snap. That's what the Ravens did. Oh, snap. Now the Ravens defensive coordinator is the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And look, their defense, I don't care what we say, their defense isn't a slouch. Their defense isn't bad. They got a lot of injuries. This is where they're currently ranked. And at some point, these rankings don't even matter because it's the matchup. It's how you show up. When I look at their offense, I'm like, oh my gosh, look where they're ranked running. And it's because of the injury to Kenneth Walker III. But listen, this dude, Kenneth Walker III, has 6 explosive runs. His longest is 28. And he has like 133 of his 200 yards are from after contact. Just let that sink in for a second, which means he's tough to tackle, which is also going to be another one of my keys to victory preview, the missed tackles. So it's just like the Niners, they just got to be on point. They got to take the script, take whatever the game plan is, and execute it. I think that's fair to say. Take the script, execute the joint. That's it. Take the script and execute it. Now, who's going to be out there doing the executing? Man, that's where your captains, your players, guys looking to be starters, like the next man up mentality. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If I'm Malik Mustafa, right? If I'm Malik, ain't nobody taking my spot. Don't ever let me get in and get the opportunity. I'm not coming out. Now, if I make a mistake, I understand. That's my point. I'm playing to not make the mistakes. Malik Mustafa hasn't been great. Malik Mustafa just needs more reps. The more he play, the better he gonna get. He had 2 PBUs, maybe even 3 last week, where he was burnt, but he finished on the play and forced the ball to be incomplete. That was in coverage. So if I'm a guy that's not necessarily a starter and I'm starting, sorry, starter, good luck. If I'm Jordan Mason, Christian McCaffrey ain't never running the ball again. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I need the players. We blame the coaches for the mentalities, but I need the players. I need the players to flip their mentality. Sometimes it's just on the guys. I need them to have the mentality. I think it starts with the captains, but again, that hit D Winters had in the game, you can't tell me that wasn't Greenlaw-esque. He had a pass breakup early in the game where he ran through the coverage and continued to run and got the PBU. If I'm a player, I'm just not trying to come out the game unless I physically have to come out. You ain't taking me out because I'm not messing up. And even if I mess up, I'm going to correct it to make you second guess taking me out. That's the mentality I think I need the players, especially the younger guys, to have. You about to play against a division rival, the Seattle Seahawks. And let me tell you something. The Seattle Seahawks are going to bring it. They're at home. They're going to bring it. Don't let their injury situation fool you. They have a quarterback that's experienced. They have a quarterback. And you know what? I'm wondering if that's the issue. I'm wondering if Kyle's defense is losing to experienced quarterbacks. We shitted on Sam Darnold, but guess what he was? He was experienced. He saw the bad stuff in New York. He saw the other bad stuff in Carolina. He saw what life looked like on the other side in San Francisco, and he was itching to get another opportunity. Now look at him now. He has his team 5-0. 5-0. It's weird, right? So weird. When I look at Geno Smith, it's not like he gets down or lays down or gives it up. But if the Niners just don't play their brass of football, Geno's gonna run. You could pass coverage down the field all you want. Let there be some room. We think Geno's not a mobile quarterback because he's not a mobile quarterback. Go watch the game against the Giants. And I know they were losing the majority of the game, and I know they lost at the end with the blocked field goal or whatever. But go watch what Geno did. He rushed for 72 yards. I just watched Kyler Murray rush for 83 yards. And Geno Smith rushed for 72 yards. If I'm Nick Sorensen, I'm like, okay, we got to put a nail. We got to stop this. Now, the good thing is you're not going to get the designed runs, the read options. What you will get is go ahead and have great pass coverage and leave him unattended and give him some green acres. He's not dumb. We watched Sam Darnold do that against us, remember? The only team that doesn't do that is the 49ers. Brock Purdy did it once in this game against Arizona where he had some green acres in front of him. Everybody was covered down the field, and he just took off and ran. But if he would have did that on that play where he threw that tipped interception, he would have had a touchdown. It's so weird. It's so weird. So listen, Seattle Seahawks players are going to talk their trash. I see my boy Dion saying they talking stuff. Let them. Right now, if you look at Charvarius Ward, he's ass. He's not good. I don't know if it's due to injury, mindset. I can't put my finger on it right now, bro. But this is a game. If he's healthy, he's dealing with a knee injury. If he's healthy, this is the game where he gets right. This is the game where he gets right. So the game plan is simple. And I think for the Niners, they just need to simplify whatever it is that they're asking their players to do. Get back to the fundamentals of football. Take away what they're strong at. They're going to try to run on the San Francisco 49ers because the Arizona Cardinals did it. So they're going to try to do it. It's copycat league. Niners need to get back to that mindset where you're not running on us, period, end of discussion, point blank, whatever. That's the Niners mindset. It needs to be that, which they did for 3 quarters last week. They need to do it for 4 quarters. The Niners got to figure out how to show up and finish. I'm at the point where it's weird because you telling me we can have a 13-point lead and lose the game? Yes. The Niners got to flip the switch mentally. They flip the switch mentally, they should be good to go. I said we're going to do some Q&A. I was not lying. So let me get to some of the questions that I see. Alejandro says, how confident are you beating the Sea Chickens, Wayne? I'm very confident, bro. I'm very confident. I don't know why I'm so confident. Like, I think the only thing that makes me nervous is what will be the game plan from Mike McDonald. Like, because and I know he doesn't have the same personnel, and sometimes that's what it comes down to. But he does have a Julian Love, which kind of resembles what we saw from Kyle Hamilton. He's a safety. That's like the wild cards. We have the worst safeties in the league, but these other teams hit it right with their safeties. I know they didn't draft him. I know they got him as a free agent, but there's reasons why you go after certain positions because it just alleviates certain of the pressures. And this is not a slack at, Hufanga or Brown or whatever, but we need a different type of safety back there. We need a safety. We need a guy that actually can play the free range of the field and has the speed to get from one side to the next and save a play or this, that, and the third. We have the same type of safeties. We have literally the same type. And so that to me is going to be the key difference. What will Julian Love be able to do against this 49ers team? Because if you go back and you watch that Ravens game, it was what Kyle Hamilton did, and everybody else was able to be a benefactor from what Kyle Hamilton did. So if Julian Love brings that same impact to the Seahawks defense, that's the only thing that worries me, because I feel like that's the mindset of their head coach and how he wants his defenses to play. Other than that, I'm really confident in beating them. Don't bother me. Since my question is with Huff's injury, do you think this closes the? Oh man, you are so funny. I don't know who I said that to yesterday. I don't think I said it on the air because I don't remember going live. But I said this could be it. This could be the end. And not necessarily the end. I think the 49ers will offer him a contract, but it won't be what Huff should get. But Huff's not playing at an all-pro level anymore. It's the way of the world, bro. Like, football is just like blah. It's so crazy. Jay Morris on Facebook says, sorry, I think the game plan won't work because Kyle will Kyle and lose tomorrow. I think when you say Kyle will Kyle, it comes down to choking, and I get it. But I'm not trying to stick up for Kyle, but if you get an opportunity to watch some of the film breakdowns from some of the, your favorite people out there, like, I'm not breaking down the film and telling you that they run in cover 3, cover 6, cover this, cover whatever. I'm telling you where they're messing up. Like, whatever coverage they're playing, I'm telling you exactly where this person missed this block, or this person should have been at this spot. Like, that's the way I'm doing it. So, like, if you watch it, you'll see that on, like, we could say that Kyle blew the game. Kyle choked for sure. But it's gonna make me go back and watch all those games, like the Super Bowls, because I really think the players failed Kyle. I think the plays were drawn up and there was an out in every play to where there's something productive happened, and the quarterback just didn't pull the trigger. Even there was a play where Deebo Samuel in the last game, and it was in the end zone. He had coverage on him, but as a quarterback, it's Deebo running the crossing route, and he's stepping foot in the end zone. So you just throw the ball in front of him. Go get it. Like, you play fetch. You loft it right there. There's nobody. It was Deebo and the guy trailing on him. And he might have dropped it. So if he dropped this on Deebo, right? But if you don't even give him the opportunity, boom. And then what ends up happening, Brock gets sacked. I'm trying to tell you, like, it's weird, bro. So yeah, I get where you're going. Kyle choke. I got it. Leon Sandcastle, do you think Feliciano starts when he comes back, or is he versatile depth? I want him in the lineup, but I don't know. That the offensive line hasn't been, but they haven't given up sacks in 2 weeks. Brock Purdy was sacked because he scrambled. But they haven't given up sacks in 2 weeks. They're giving up some pressures. Colt McKivitz gave up a couple of bad pressures. But they're not as bad as we think. But I just rather have that veteran out there. You know what I mean? Like, give me the vet. The question is, where are you putting him? Is he going to center? Because I think Jake Brendel is a liability out there. He had an opportunity to be the man on one play. He still made the play, but he whiffed the block, but his body was so big the guy couldn't get around him, so it was like he blocked him anyway, so you got to give him the credit for it. But, other than that, man, the run game starts with the center. People think the run game starts with the running back. Nah, it starts with the center up front. And if the center is just like, ugh, it's just weird. So if Feliciano can play center and play it well and healthy, I'm Gucci. You know what I mean? Like, I think you put him in there. I think he gives you your best option. Rick Diaz says, when Breezy, I got a question for you. Do you think the 49ers are going to have a good game? I do. I really do. By design, too. Like, by design. I really do. First of all, the 49ers play very well at Lumen Field. Don't know if it's what's different between that and Century Field, but never been to Century Field. But I've been to Lumen, and the Niners play very well there. Brock Purdy plays very well there. So because of that, I actually think that they actually do have a pretty good game. Like, I won't look what they did against Arizona. That was Arizona. and you had a quarterback that decided to make a couple of plays. I don't feel like I feel like the Niners are more prepared for a guy like Geno because they know that that's not the read option is not what they do. The read option was something that they knew Kyler was going to do. You just didn't know when he was going to do it. And so it forces you to think, overthink, overreact, all that type of stuff. I think they just need to play disciplined, and I think they'll be fine defensively. Offensively, the Niners move the ball, man. The stats don't lie. They move the ball. They just can't score when they get in the red zone, and I think they fix that. Or don't get in the red zone and just score. Whatever they got to do, I think they have a good game, Rick. I really do. Fly, Mac, do we give Debo another contract? I don't know. I mean, you have to question. First of all, he restructured. Um, but I personally would. I personally would. The question is, why aren't we using Debo? That's the question. And so Debo usually goes off against Seattle too, by the way. So I just want to put that out there. Like Debo usually goes off against Seattle. I'm looking at his games against Seattle. He only had 2 games under 100 yards. I'll let that sink in. 1 for 79, 1 for 44. Other than that, 102, 112, 156, 133, 149. Like this is a Debo week. You know what I mean? So I think they're gonna find a way to use Debo a little bit more. Gabriel says Debo can't separate. It depends on what you're looking at. It depends on what you're asking him to do. If you're asking him, you can't say that he can't separate. He might not do it consistently enough, but he separated last week, and Brock underthrows the ball slightly for Debo getting the touchdown. I'm telling you, like it's all how we use him. So he might not do it on a consistent basis on those quick routes because Debo's not a quick guy. Like Debo is more like if I got the angle on you, then I'm out. And if you miss me because I can break tackles, then you're not going to be caught. Just think of a car that accelerates slower but it's fast. That's Debo, right? So can he separate? Yes and no. Like it's weird. It's super weird. Jake Brendo is one of the reasons we aren't effective in the run game. 100%. 100%. Agency says, do you think Kyle dials up quick hitters Thursday? Screens, slants. I feel like he should. We saw the screen game this week. We got Debo on a couple of screens, right? We got George Kittle on a screen. Why not? Why challenge? We're playing against another 3-4 team too. Oh gosh, you got to figure out a way to take advantage of the 3-4 defenses. There's loopholes in it, like right. Not everybody got the great speedy linebackers that can cover, so Kyle's gonna have to use these screens. And here's my thing, right? I think the issue with the screens though is the offensive line not blocking properly. And so the moment we catch the ball, pow, right in the kisser, right? And so like I prefer slants. The touchdown to George Kittle was like I'm gonna block and you're gonna tap me, and then I'm gonna go out, and then I'm gonna be right open in the end zone. And so like, why not use slants, man? That's the quick throw game. So I'm all about quick throws, just to build up the efficiency. You know what I mean? We need Brock to get back to being comfortable. I'm glad we're seeing an evolving Brock, and he's looking to take and get the explosive play down the field. I'm super glad with that. But it's taken away from his efficiency because if he's not making these big throws and not completing these big throws, what about the underneath routes? Now, Brock, if you're playing zone, Brock is good. Brock is good. Let's keep it a buck. Like Brock is good against zone. Brock used to be really good against man, but I think they're blitzing more on man coverage. And so they're rushing him. You know what I mean? And so because of that, Brock's got to rush the throw. Brock's throwing off balance. Brock's a little out of sync, Big Fish says, us not being able to score in the red zone is a huge problem. Huge isn't the issue. It's whatever word is a bigger synonym for huge is what it is. Gigantic, enormous, whatever. It's huge. Can I tell you the numbers? Because I know them by heart. Scoring touchdowns in the red zone, the Niners are ranked 29th. 40%. That ain't gonna get it done. That ain't gonna get it done. That's not gonna get it done. You brought up Red zone, I'm going to give you facts and the stats. That's terrible. I wish I could get Charles Barkley on here. I need to start reaching out to guys. Just ask if they. What's the worst thing they could do? Say no. That's terrible. That is terrible. That is bad. Golly, that's 29th. How many teams in the league? 32. They got to figure it out. I'm trying to tell you, man. They got to figure it out. Niners can move the ball. They have zero problems. They putting up yards. They get second yards per game. Number 2. Touchdowns, scoring, it's big difference. Big difference. Huge. Huge. Agency 323. Breezy, do you think Kyle should use Garindo out of the backfield more? Isn't he a converted wide receiver? You can't trust him though, bro. You can't trust him yet. He's not proven that he's a good running back. He's not proven yet. I'm all about giving him the reps though. You know what I mean? I'm all about giving him the reps. You got to give him the reps, you know? Kylie says we need more bootleg misdirection plays. Yes, but what happens is on them bootlegs, somebody's messing up. We do them, and somebody is doing something wrong. And next thing you know, Brock's going this way, and then he's got to take a step back and try to elude and make somebody miss. And by then, nobody's wide open, and so now there's nowhere to throw the ball. On that one attempt in the end zone, in the red zone last week, I mean, Brock did the bootleg to the left, and Debo literally had his guy, you know, and all Brock has to do is put it right in front of him to where Debo can make the play on the ball. See, there's a place where quarterbacks just need to throw the ball to give your receiver the opportunity. It's not the only thing that would have messed that up is if Debo gunned it in. I mean, if Brock gunned it in there and then Debo, like, it was slightly behind him, Debo touches it and it tips in the air, but there was really nobody around there to catch it. And there was 4 49ers that if that ball did tip in the air, there's a possibility they would have came down with it, but I know how our luck works. My point is Brock has to pull the trigger. Like, I think Brock has to trust himself. Just pull the trigger. Just pull the trigger. I don't know what Kyle Shanahan did to Brock, but whatever it is, Brock just got to get back to just being himself and pulling the trigger. I miss the Brock that would throw it into double coverage way across his body and knew that his guy Brandon Ayuk or somebody was going to come down with the ball. That's the Brock we're missing. Whatever Kyle Shanahan did to him and scolded him has messed him up to where he won't pull that trigger. And you didn't see him pull the trigger a lot in this game. You got to go watch the Patreon. Guys, I got to get up out of here. I got Bleacher Report at 4 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to be previewing more of the game. I'm going to be breaking down things more statistically. I'll have injury updates, all that stuff. All right, so make sure if you guys got the Bleacher Report app, download it to your phone, to your desktop. All right, follow me, Wayne Breezy, over there, and I'll be going live at 4 p.m., and the BAM show will be doing, we'll be going over some of the Seattle Seahawks players offensively and defensively who the 49ers need to be aware of. We call them the dangerous players. So Madden tonight, I'm going to be probably doing the Madden challenge tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Give me a little time to make some transitions, set it all up. So yeah, that's going down. And then tomorrow it is game day. All right. So tomorrow is game day. I think the 49ers are going to be just freaking fine. We just have to, you know, I'm all for the creativity around there. But here's the thing about creativity. If your head coach isn't trusting the players to do the plays that aren't creative, their players are making mistakes. I don't know if we're going to trust on the creativity, but make Trent Williams eligible and let the motherfucker go up and get it. The dude's like 7 feet tall and probably got a 10-inch vertical at 312 pounds. Just let the dude go. Just try it. That's the creativity. It don't even got to be super creative. Line him up in the backfield and let him run it in from the 2-yard line. If you ain't going to let your running back, I mean, I'd rather have a lineman running in. Give it to George Kittle out of the backfield. That is the type of creativity that I'm talking about. I don't need no trick play, fake Statue of Liberty, blah, 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 blah. I don't need that. Nah, I ain't talking about none of that. I'm just talking about, like, enforce your will. I'm going to score whether you like it or not. And I will put a 300-pound lineman back here. I've seen it done before. It's legal. You just got to do it right. That would be it for me, man. Listen, I love y'all, man. You guys are the best motherfucking fans in the world, even though we don't like each other when we lose. But it's all love. Just want y'all to know that. It's all love, man. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you, man. I'll be back a little bit later on this evening. Until then, Stay faithful to the Bay, everybody.